This story was sent to me as a part of the Operation Protect the White Boy series, but when I looked at it further, I said, technically, when you think about it, he didn't really fall into that treatment, and you'll understand why when I get to that point. So this man's name is Terry Keylon Jr., and he was convicted on strangling two women, assaulting his fiance and an officer, and he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Now, the protection part probably comes in where he did it to an officer and nothing happened to him. However, he's gotten consequences because he's getting 50 years where nobody died. Now, if somebody would have lost their life behind this and all he got was 50 years, then I would have said, okay, put that label onto him. But he's only halfway in. And when we do that series of Operation Protect the White Boy or White Woman, they got to be all the way in, like lean in with this. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about the story nonetheless. And it is coming out of Montgomery County, Texas. A man has been sentenced to 50 years in prison for repeatedly inciting violence against family in Montgomery County, the district attorney announced. On March 31st, evidence was presented to a selected jury that Terry Keylon Jr., age 42, assaulted his fiancée on the evening of July 25th, 2021 in their home in New Waverly, Texas. The woman testified that Keylon grabbed her by the arms and head and slammed her repeatedly into the cabinets in the kitchen and reportedly pulled out a chunk of her hair, leaving a visible bald spot. The woman then ran to a nearby gas station where she gave her statement to Deputy Joshua Wright, who also testified that the woman had injuries. Wright attempted to arrest Keylon, but was refused. Wright later filed for a felony warrant for Keylon's arrest, according to officials. It was later learned that Keylon had 2 prior felony convictions from separate counties for strangling women with whom he had a dating relationship. A previous victim testified during the trial that Keylon strangled her and bloodied her nose and threatened to kill her in the presence of her then 4-year-old son. The jury in the case heard testimony that Keylon assaulted a Huntsville Police Department officer moments after being arrested for strangling the same woman. Keylon was also convicted numerous times for driving under the influence and having a controlled substance. A judge later determined that Keylon would serve 50 years in prison after hearing all evidence and testimony. You know what? After reading all the details, I might have to rescind what I said about him falling under the category of Operation Protect the White Boy, because that was a lot. I didn't know all of that came into it. This man is a whole menace out here. Because as you know, we all know if he was black, with all the stuff that he did, it's a good slight chance he would not be alive to take this mugshot. And he's 42 now. So with 50 years, that means he won't get out until he's 92, unless they say he's eligible for parole after a certain amount of time. But I don't see anything in this article that states that he could be eligible for parole before that time. Let him serve out the entire time, because it's very rare that, even though this man is still alive from what he did, that he would get 50 years behind this and nobody died. Like there was no loss of life, there were no casualties. So yeah, like I said, the guy's a menace and he deserves to be exactly where he is. But then they said he ripped out a chunk of his fiance's hair, leaving a visible bald spot. That means he ripped out a good amount. It wasn't a strand or a couple pieces of hair. He grabbed a fistful of hair and just yanked it out. Like, that's crazy. That is insane. But I really can't really put anything else to this particular story except the fact that this guy is extremely violent. Luckily, nobody died from what he did, especially with what he was doing to his wife. Like they said, this was ongoing domestic abuse and domestic violence. This is almost right up there with the familicide that Robbie talking about on his channel every now and then. It was almost there. If he had took out his fiance, that would have been it. I can't help but think that when I'm looking at him in his mugshot right here, that he was probably crying at one piece because he knew, oh shit, I'm done. But see, he's been doing it for so long, and they probably been trying to get someone out there to come and get him, but nobody was trying to get him, or that guy was that convincing to make his ex-fiance say, look, this is not abuse, this is love. That's how a lot of people, I guess, in domestic abuse situations, they play that psychological game on someone with a weak mind. Not saying his ex-fiance is weak-minded, in order to make them stay around. But that is insane. But yeah, I think it's safe to say he might fall into the Operation Protect the White Boy after looking at all the details behind this. Because I thought it was just, oh, he just got 50 years for doing what he did. It's a kind of a cut and dry thing, but the details say otherwise. This guy is too dangerous to be walking amongst regular society. And honestly, from what I read, he definitely should have been arrested and put in jail a much longer time ago than what they recently did.